Hello everyone, I'm Slow Rider, this is my world. Still out and about in the Peak District, still sorting stuff out. It's the last bit of the ride, I promise. I thought I had a third subject to talk about while I was doing these, but I can't remember what it is. So, during my little break at Yondermans, I decided I'm going to go with a little tech update, and it is interesting. It's not really. I just thought I'd say that. So the first thing I actually want to talk about is the mount for the camera, which I haven't got shots of at the moment because I only have one camera running. But it's the Motoradds camera mount for the helmet, the slim, long design, as opposed to the little block one. And I want to mention this because although it's been on the helmet, what, about a year now, maybe a little less. About 9 months. It's been on about 9 months. Because I put it on after the North of England tour, which was in June. So yeah, about 9. We'll say 6 to 9 months to be on the safe side. But it's basically a permanently attached camera at this point because of the way it's mounted. There's no quick release or anything like that. But that means it's been carrying the weight of the camera pretty much all the time. And so far, it has not let me down. I've not had to reapply it anywhere, I've not had to stick it back on, it doesn't look like it's coming off. I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed with it. The chin mount brand chin mount wouldn't have lasted about 12 hours with the camera attached. I don't think. It was, well, I had that attached for about 6 months, but the camera was only really attached during the daytime, you know, when I was actually using it, so maybe 4 or 5 hours a day, something like that. And then you take it off for the night, and then the first night I left it, it came off. The Ride Tech ones, they're basically a carbon copy. There are some differences to some helmet designs, to be fair, but some of them are a carbon copy. They're about the same as the chin mount branded ones, but these Motoradds ones, yeah, I mean, granted there's a lot more sticky area to actually help hold the thing on, but I think it's really cool for the price, because I think it's cheaper, it's more than the Ride Tech ones, it's cheaper than the chin mount ones. I think that's the way around it works. Discount code and affiliate link in the description box. But yeah, for the money, I think this one's solid. This one is going to work. I needed to have a couple more of the connector blocks, which seem to be the standard GoPro type things, fares. I've needed to have a couple more of them because you get supplied with one and it's quite short. And I don't think it's very easy to get the mount in quite the right place because it's so big. It's very easy to misplace it, so that's something to be a negative for it, I guess. And yeah, it being a permanent feature of the helmet is a little bit annoying. It means I kind of have to have the camera on all the time, or I have to adjust the camera every time I use it or whatever. So that's a little bit annoying. But it's been a solid mount so far. Absolutely solid. Could not approve of it more. Genuinely happy with it. Genuinely happy with it. I say, it's been on basically since I applied the actual thing on. The camera's been in the mount pretty much all the time. and it doesn't feel like it's about to fall off after 6 months, which, yes, I'm pretty sure the other one wouldn't last 6 days, never mind 6 months. So this might be an interesting junction to try and mark. Okay. I mean, I'm hoping this will last quite a bit longer. A lot longer. But so far, yeah, I'm genuinely happy with it. I was concerned about the weight because of previous experience with the other mounts. I was concerned about the weight of the camera pulling the mount off very quickly, but this really has worked really well. And one of the problems with the other mounts was that it wasn't so much the 3M tape to the helmet that was the problem, it was the 3M tape to the mount that was the problem. That's what came unstuck. So maybe it's just the way they applied the tape to the mount, I don't know. Maybe it's something to do with the 3D printing process that they use. Because 3D printing is kind of oily, so maybe the 3M tape just doesn't take to it. But this isn't 3D printed, this is some sort of rubberized thing by the feel of it. With an internal metal band for some rigidity. That's how it feels, and it's a sturdy little thing. I've knocked it a couple of times, but it doesn't seem to have damaged it in any way, which is really cool. So if you're looking for a chin mount for your camera, you could do far worse than this one. No, this is pretty good. I would actually recommend it as it is right now. It's really good. The other thing I wanted to give an update on is the Beeline Moto II, which I'm using with a GPX file for the first time. And there doesn't appear to be a way to alter the GPX file once it's in the Beeline Moto, which is slightly annoying. I might have missed it. I'll have to examine further. But it's pretty reasonable. Yeah, it follows the GPX file pretty religiously. I couldn't find a way to actually adjust it, and when I've accidentally gone off course, it has not reset the route. It's stuck religiously to that route, which is interesting. It might have been a signal thing, I don't know. But it does mean I can tell pretty easily when I've gone the wrong way. So I think that's a blessing and a curse. Because with a lot of apps, it will just, you know, try and reroute, and then if it can't reroute because you've gone that badly wrong, or there's roadworks or whatever, it'll just suddenly forget that there's a routing point somewhere and just divert you to the next one after that because it's given up. I don't think this would, but it doesn't show you any extra routes when you go off route, so you kind of have to work out your own way back if you do go wrong. But the errors I've had so far today have all been user errors. They've all been my fault, not the app's fault. It's been pretty solid on that front. And yes, okay, it's still, I haven't paid for the premium, so I don't get the I don't get the audio navigation. So I do have to keep looking down at it to see where I'm going, etc. Periodically. But I don't think that's a problem. I'm not struggling to hear the audio, and if you've got a setup that works for you, can you hear the audio clearly, then oh, that's really cool. For some reason in this helmet I can't, well, I don't know whether it's just the apps I use or the phone I've got or the speakers or whatever, there's something it just doesn't seem to want to run right. And it's annoying. And in terms of keeping me on the straight and narrow, I can see exactly where I'm going. There's no confusion about where I'm going. It's a nice white line there. nice and easy to see. Again, I wouldn't use it on the Sprint necessarily because I've got more space on the Sprint to put big bulky sat-navs or CarPlay systems or whatever. But I think this on the CBR, and even on this bike to a degree, naughty. But on the CBR and this bike particularly, this little Beeline thing is nice and inoffensive. And the mount is pretty much universal. It's not entirely. It needs a bar to sit to, or to sit on. But because it's an elastic band rather than a solid piece of plastic, or other two elastic bands, it stretches. So it's not so reliant on an exact size of bar to sit on. I mean, I've got a metal plate that sits over this bar, and I can still put it on there. Anyway, yeah, there we go. So, 2 tech pieces. God, this is great for a terrible video, isn't it? Oh, I've remembered what it was now. Hold on. I've remembered what the third thing was. It kind of goes back to the Sprint. Sorry, I like talking about it. What can I say? So, I was thinking the other day, given the cost of getting the Sprint back on the road, if I was new to riding and I got a bike and it cost that much to keep going on the road over the 3 years that I've had it, is it 3 years? 3 years. No, it must be 3 years. Anyway, if I got a small bike and it, relatively speaking, it cost us that much to keep it going. Yeah, if relatively speaking I had spent as much on a 125 keeping it on the road as I have this Sprint, would I have continued riding? It's one of those sort of, when you start to ride, do you get a brand new bike or do you get a second-hand bike? It's that question that I'm kind of looking at. Because I got a brand new bike and I tried to trash it as quickly as possible. Because I rather suspect, you know, I mean, we're talking relatively, so, you know, percentage-wise, etc., etc. If I'd spent almost much in 3 years on repairs as I had the bike itself, which is about where we are with my Sprint. Actually, no, it's probably worse than that. Would I have been able to do it? Is probably the bigger question. I guess on a 125 maybe you could try and do some of the repairs yourself and not worry so much because it's a cheaper bike. Maybe. I rather suspect I would have given up. And that's one of the risks with getting a second-hand bike, isn't it? You risk getting a duffer. And I don't think my Sprint's been particularly duff. It wasn't the most reliable bike, but it was new apparently, so you know, I don't think I've got an especially duff one, but it's not exactly a pristine one either, so yeah, I think I'm glad I went down the new bike route, to be honest. It only looked new for about 4 days. Then I did a Superman impression off the front. I guess there's a sort of a buyer beware sort of thing on any second-hand bike, and maybe if you don't know the bike you should go with someone who does, or someone who's mechanically minded or whatever, to go over it, maybe. Otherwise there is a risk. If I don't know the Sprint was going to cost me this much, I would have bought a different Sprint. That might have cost me more. You wouldn't necessarily want to push a new rider into getting a new bike, what with all the other costs surrounding getting your license and whatnot. Well, I guess if you're talking 125s, it's probably not so bad. The bigger bike you get, the more cost it is to repair, etc., etc., and typically the more can go wrong with it as well. With all the extra cost that brings, so yeah, I don't know, maybe it's different for 125s, but Which is why I say relatively speaking, because I'm not saying would I spend 3-4 grand repairing a 125. No, of course not. You buy a new one for that. I mean, a brand new one for that. But if you bought a second-hand one for, say, 1 grand, and you were spending 1 grand on bringing it back onto the road, with, you know, over the 3 years. When the thing is, I say, you know, if it was a grand you spent on a 125 and, you know, be glad to put it back on the road, you wouldn't bother. And I think the slight difference with my Sprint is that there aren't too many Sprints about for sale, and those that are about for that, well, for 3 grand, whatever, aren't top of the line. Like mine isn't top of the line. Which means you buy them and you're likely to have similar problems to what you had before, you know? That's the way I view it. But I mean, 125s are pretty much 10 a penny, even if you wanted exactly the same one, you know, it's the same colour, whatever. You could probably find it reasonably quickly for a similar sort of price. Bigger bikes, perhaps not quite so much. Also, I guess, once you've had a bike for a while, or once you've got a feel for a bike, you don't necessarily want to get rid of that bike either, which would be different if you had a 125, I think. As much as I love my 125, my TBR, it would have been relatively easy to replace. I could have replaced it, in fact, when it was written off. I decided not to. I felt that it wouldn't be the same. But yeah, that whole process is one of the reasons why I went for a brand new bike rather than a second-hand one, because I knew I was getting a good warranty with it. I knew all the parts I knew and should function as designed, and so on and so forth. But you pay a premium for that. And you pay a bit of a premium on the insurance as well for a brand new bike. I suppose the one that's a few years old. Unless, of course, you undervalue the bike. Now, I realise my day out today has been over 3 videos and several topics, but I've really enjoyed the roads today, and I think most of these might actually make it to the Southern Ride. A couple of bits that need to be weeded out, but actually, I think, doing pretty well. Incidentally, the Slow Rider Spring Social, just a reminder for you, 27th of April. I'm on Ash at 9 o'clock, leaving for 10. So be there before 10, basically, is what I'm saying. Roadhouse parking spots, then Yondermans, and then on to Wetton Mill. Exact route to be finalised. Pretty sure I've seen that van before today. I mean, you'll have seen it 2 videos ago, but anyway. Uh-oh, phone's died. Pull over temporary to solve the problem. Okay, we are back recording. Sweetness. So yes, the phone battery did die, which is annoying. I need to change the phone over. I've got a new phone, I just haven't changed it over, so I'll probably do that when I get home, or at least put the sat-nav stuff on that phone, the other phone. This looks a bit less encouraging, doesn't it? Oh boy. I can't imagine there's too much rumbling down here though. Yeah, so interesting thing there. So the phone battery died, but I kept the Beeline Moto machine on. When the phone came back on, I switched the Beeline app on. It automatically reconnected with this, and then resumed the ride. I'm 99.9% sure that Detect would not have done that. It would have just gone, oh, you ended your ride, or messed up in some other way, and then wouldn't have restarted because you got no signal or whatever. So that is very cool. That is very cool indeed. I like that. That's another plus for this Beeline. Beeline Moto II. There you go. Over the bridge. Remember that bit? Ah, yes, here's the turn. I know it's childish. I don't care. Not that you'll understand that symbol at all. You'll go cruising around there, find the walkers and the dog, slam on the brakes, slide somewhere, whatever. Oh, it's a 20 down here. I thought it was 30. I've been speeding. I don't care. Must be nearly a 20 because I'm sure it's 30. Last time I came down here. It was a while since I come down here though. In fact, that they're parked out here doesn't fill me with hope, but maybe it's just walkers and not cafe patrons. Oh, cats. Right, hope you enjoyed that little ride. Until the next video, be good humans. Ta-ta for now.